Hello. Today I am so excited, you guys. I am going to be talking with a writer out of Australia / England. She now lives in England. And I want to tell you a little bit about her before she joins me. So I'm going to read it here so I get it exactly right. Jessie Shedden is a British Australian chicken loving, cult escaping, badass woman who has become a sought after speaker, consultant, and inspirational author of Tomorrow's Not Promised, which is her new book. So her story is unbelievable. And as we go from the book I've written, Sacred Hellos, Messages from Heaven, and grieving, and the next step after grieving often is putting our lives back together. Jessie is an excellent example of someone who has done that. And she has come from extreme chaos and darkness and sadness, and she'll tell you all about it, to claiming her life again and getting a new chance. So I'm really excited to introduce you to Jessie. All right. Hello, Jessie. It's so nice to see
Noelle.
you.
Amazing to finally see you. It's crazy how we connected.
It is. We, for those that don't know, so Jessie and I are both part of like a writing group, part of a, I guess, public relations media group, I would call it maybe, the 5 Minutes group. And our circles just have intertwined. So it was meant to be that we met. So very nice to have you here.
I think I put up some question or something, or I asked you a question on one of your posts, and then you got into offering to create and design my book cover for me. And I was like, how does that happen?
I know, it's kind of funny. Through designing my own this past year, my degree is in graphic design. So I do have a history in that. But definitely through doing and going through the whole process, I'm like, okay, I can do this for sure. So yes, it was all fresh. So I'm glad that worked out. You can show it. You want to show your book?
Yeah, I'm so proud of it because you just made that so easy, by the way, doing that. I mean, I'd paid someone to do it before and I had no end of trouble. So thank you so much for making that just like a dream. I think you sent me the draft and like within a couple of hours later, I'd submitted it to Amazon and we were done.
It was perfect.
It was.
Yes, it's funny because hours after that, I had to help my dad move all weekend. So I'm like, I have this morning to get this done, or it's not going to happen for like days. So it was perfect.
And I was so grateful. Like I stayed up and I was like scurrying back and forth to the bed each time I got a message from you. And I'm like, no, I need to get this off to Amazon because I'm not going to get my author copy before it goes live and everybody gets to hear about it. Because I had a news article going out on the 1st of November and I'm like, I have to get this through. I have to get this through. And it just happened.
So I want to talk to you about your story. I am fascinated and I will read your book. I've read your blog posts and I've read about your book. So I feel like I have enough of an insight, but I am really excited to talk to you about it. So do you want to just give like a little background of your story beyond what I shared earlier in your introduction? And then I have some questions for you about kind of the intuition that it must have taken for you to start to question things and how you started doing that, how moving forward. Your outlook is amazing. And how that merges in with my audience is just when you're grieving and you feel like life, how is life going to continue? It's not the same as what you recognize. And grief is incredibly difficult if your whole world's been shattered, no matter how it's been shattered. And people around you respond differently than you wish they would. Incredibly frustrating sometimes. So go ahead and just share a little bit about your story and background.
So my background is having grown up in a strict religious cult for the first 30 years of my life. And then I escaped from that 3 years ago. But tied into that, I was in the process of losing my mother to cancer at the same time as well. And I was her primary carer. So there's a lot, or there was at the time, a lot of guilt around how could I just walk out on her? Because when I escaped, I knew that I wouldn't have the same access to my family. So that in itself was very tough. And then she passed 6 months after I left. And for the first couple of years after I left, I seemed to get myself, due to my naivety and my vulnerability, I got myself into like a cycle of really shitty relationships, which was actually, the cycle kind of got worse and worse. So the first one wasn't quite so bad. And then it ended up just each one seemed to get worse. And it was like, yeah, I got so close to taking my life in that third one that it scared me how close I got. Like I knew, I just remember lying there on the bed looking at I had exposed beams in my barn conversion at the time. And I just looked at them and I thought, well, I know there's a belt in my wardrobe and I know I can do this. And I'm not reaching out to anybody because I want to go through with it. And it was like that point I knew that was how close I was, because I was just like, I'm down and I feel kicked when I'm down, and I've got really no one that understands my background or where I've come from that I can reach out to and talk to about this. And I certainly can't talk to my family. And I'm still trying to process the grief of losing my mother. There was a lot of layers there. But incredibly, and to this day, I'm just so grateful I had one person I could call a friend that I'd met since, in those 3 years. So I still didn't know her that well. But she was very grounded. She knew who she was. She is very high up in our UK equivalent of the SAS, and the SEALs, which is the SAS for us. And she understands, because her partner suffers horrifically from PTSD, and she just kept reaching out. I was honest about it, and I just said to her, look, I don't know why I'm here today. I nearly took my life last night. And every day she would just keep in touch, and she would never say, how are you? It was just, these are my movements for the day, just wanted to say hi. And it was like, I'm here, and if you respond, then I know you're okay. And it was just the tact and the way she did it that kept me going through those days, because I just knew someone cared, and they weren't poking, they were actually caring.
That's a really good point. I never thought about it that way too, of asking someone how you're doing, almost as anchoring them in that place, instead of just allowing you to keep passing through without having to stop and anchor yourself there.
I didn't need to tell her. I didn't have to fake it and say, yeah, I'm doing fine. At the same time, she didn't give me the opportunity to say, I feel so shit, and wallow. She just briefed me on what was happening for her, and not in any kind of like really chippy way or anything. Not like she was real upbeat. It was just, there was just a sensitivity in the reaching out. I was like, wow, you've got this. You totally get this, don't you?
That's amazing. It's easy when you're not in that place to say, you'll come through it, everything works out. Because when you're in it, you truly don't know if it's going to work out. You can't see how those pieces would fit together. So it feels impossible.
Yeah, I just felt like the pain was really blinding. Like I just couldn't see past that mist of pain. And that's what I wanted to stop, was how I felt.
Right. When you say that were you born in Australia? And did this happen in Australia, or did this happen in England?
No, this all happened in the UK, in England, yeah.
Okay. And is it England or is it the UK?
I was in England. I'm in the UK now because I'm in Wales. So I keep saying England, and I'm like, oh, I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, and that's my bad. I know better. So okay, Wales. We'll refer to it as Wales. Perfect. It's on my bucket list of places to someday visit. So yes.
Do let us know when you're passing through.
I will. I a few years ago made it to Cambridge, England, and London and stuff. And I had, like, when I stepped on the ground, I had tears of just like, I've been here before in another life. Like I just had this knowing that I have a connection to it there somehow beyond what I could comprehend. So
wow,
it was very neat. Yeah. I am sure that there has been layer after layer of things that you were taught being brought up. And there's the obvious things that as you left were probably like, okay, I know those weren't true, but I'm guessing there are still things that were taught as is in your life that you're having to still question or realize that you need to question, because so that foundation that you built your whole life upon, you have to like replace every one of those pillars with some new belief or something,
or establish which ones you need to replace and which ones you don't, which is kind of a minefield in itself. I feel like I've probably done it a bit differently than some who did do a lot of questioning. I was really close with my parents, and they were, although my father was, I wouldn't say high up, he was respected, he would have been considered as an elder. He also possibly, I wouldn't say not appropriately, but wouldn't have been expected to discuss with his children the wrongs that were going on, which we did as a family, because we suffered under them as a family. And when you see your father suffering under it and he's got nowhere to go, you've got to be there for him. I think the things that I questioned was how some of the hypocrisies and the poor treatment tied in with Christian beliefs. A lot of like the fundamentals, it was just, okay, I get it, it's a club, you play by club rules, you're in the club. And it's the same as many other organizations do. Do I think that's wrong or right? I don't think I've necessarily really questioned that. Obviously, I was like, well, I'm into photography and I'm also into classic cars, being that the group I was in wouldn't allow females to wear jeans or pants or whatever you want to call them. That's kind of gets embarrassing when you're out photographing classic cars and on your knees and you're trying to maintain some modesty. It's just not appropriate. That was frustrating, right. That kind of thing. And it's like, it's not right for me. Am I saying it's wrong for everybody? I think they should have the ability to make that choice themselves.
Right.
In the way that I felt I should have the ability to make that choice, and I didn't. That's the bit that felt wrong, was not having the choice.
Right. Okay, so that's really good to know. So if your family court, do you still talk to your dad, or did you have to leave that?
So we go through two stages. We go through the suspended stage where they continually hope that you will return and you've got the freedom to do that during that period. And that covered most of the time while my mother was alive. So I was really grateful of that because I had extra contact. And then I did something that was deemed as very inappropriate, and it totally would have been to them. I took part in a lingerie modeling contest in a nightclub, which I did for my own reasons, not because I wanted to be seen as a slut or a whore or anything like that. I did it actually to push myself to a place of batshit scared because I'd been bullied for my appearance all that time, and I was like, I want to accept my body. But they saw that without me speaking to them, and then went, okay, we need to formally excommunicate you now. After which the contact dwindled a lot. And then when I went to bring out my memoir, I was asked not to bring it out, and then I've not received any contact since then. But also, to put that into perspective, that was 2 months ago. I've had 2 phone calls in 7 months. So, and there's never birthdays or anything like that. Father's Day, Mother's Day, they didn't want any presents, nothing.
Right. Do you ever hold out the hope that maybe your strength will eventually give them hope that they might wake up, or is that too much to even carry on your shoulders?
It's an interesting one. At the moment, I feel like I just want them to be in a place where they're happiest. That's all I want. And if they were to leave and not be happy, I wouldn't like that. They're not. My father's, he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's now. He's in his 70s and he's pretty much had a nervous breakdown because of the way he was treated. I don't know if he would handle the change of leaving and being separated from everybody he knew. I don't know if he would cope with that. And I don't think that's fair to want that for him to go through that. He's actually moved this year across to Australia from the UK, and he's much closer to all his natural family there, and I couldn't be more happy for him because he's been wanting to get back there, and I'm so pleased because that's right for him.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Even watching my dad grieve my mom, I felt like he was half of the person he used to be just with that, and that's not with all the other stuff you're talking about.
And I think, if I'm honest as well, in processing all of it, the first 2 years after I left, I was just trying to survive. I was trying to find my feet in a new environment and deal with really shitty relationships where I was looking for some support. I was looking for somebody to have my back, and that totally wasn't the situation. So I was just fighting every day just to keep going. And now that I'm very pleased to say I'm in a completely different and very healthy and loving relationship, and it's given me like a foundation, on which I can stand to start to let down my guard and actually do some of this healing that I've needed to do. And now I can look at this stuff. Like, I would never have dreamt of writing and opening up and telling my story before I had that safe space and knew that somebody would have my back in that way.
What a gift. That's amazing.
He really has been and continues to be.
Good. And your chickens, have you always had those, or have that been a new part of just like a gift to yourself?
No, I did have them before I left. They were at that point, they were an outlet, somewhere to go that I knew I had unconditional love and that I could just get away from everything. And they've just been that all the way through.
That's awesome.
I'm very keen on bringing them up from very young so I can handle them and get that kind of tactile with them. And then, yeah, you just get the trust.
Yeah. So writing a book has, I consider writing a book one thing. Actually finishing and publishing a book, self-publishing, whatever type of anything, and putting it onto the world is a whole other thing. So bravo, I have complete respect for this process. And I know what absolute courage it's taken for me, and this belief that my story matters, and just trusting in something bigger. Even, you're just putting this out and just have this feeling it's supposed to be out. What has that been like for you, and what has the growth been, or things you've pushed through to get to this point?
It's interesting because I wrote one a number of years ago, but it was like, I never felt like I could say I wrote it because it was a collection of other people's stories that I kind of compiled. So I always felt like I cheated, but I did. I put a work out there. And then when I started on this one, I thought, oh, I'm going to write a self-help book. And then it didn't turn out that way. As I got into it, I started realizing my story was ready to start coming out. And that was actually really scary. It was like, okay, didn't realize it was going to go like this at all. And then to what depths am I ready to reveal? Some of this stuff I still haven't processed myself, and some of it I processed in going through it, but there's still areas that I just couldn't put in black and white. I'm not ready to even look at them yet. It's way too sore. But then I remember the first day, I think, when it went out to the beta readers, I was like, I don't know what they're going to think of me. And this constant judgment of like, I'm going to lose so many friends, which is the opposite of what's happened, to be honest. And then the day it was finally released, it was just like, I've said it before, I've done fully nude photo shoots, but I've never felt as naked as when I put the book out there, because I've just opened up my soul to the world, and there's nowhere to hide anymore.
Yeah. And I'm guessing by what you said, when you took that wall down to be able to share and put that out, that also let other people come in more and offer support and see you.
And I had to be willing to allow that.
Mm-hmm.
And to trust. But in the process, I started to reach out to other ex-members, which I hadn't done at all. And that was one thing I really didn't want to do, because I didn't want other people's opinions. I just wanted to run. And I wanted to shut that door and pretend it had never happened and no one would know anything about it. And I could start into life without anyone knowing a thing and never explain anything. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm ready to own this part of my life now. And then I was ready to talk to others who had left. And that was so healing in itself. Like to use terminology I hadn't used in 3 years. It felt really weird to be using these words I just literally hadn't had a basis to use, hadn't needed to. And it was like, wow, this is healing in its own way. I'm not the only person that's gone through this or feels like this. And to even actually accept that I could be suffering from PTSD, I'd never viewed it that. I was just like, put on your big girl pants and keep moving, girl. That's all I'd ever done. And then to go, you know what? There's actually some healing that needs to happen here.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. What religious, like, use the term cult, so I'll use that word, but what was it? I guess I should know
the name of it.
Mm-hmm. Or just in general, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Christianity was the main line of it.
Okay.
I mean, it was even that, it was really hard for me to use the word cult. because I'd never viewed them as that. This was who I was part of. This is who my family is still part of, and I knew they hated that term.
Yeah.
But when you actually start to look at it, you realize it is, and accepting that was a major thing. And there are still probably practices. No, not probably. There still are practices that they do that I would find myself justifying because I've known no different.
Right. So I think it's amazing that you were able to reach that point that you could walk away into complete unknown and put a life together. I mean, I hope that through all this, it sounds like you are, but you're just able to take moments to and just like, I'm freaking amazing. Like, way to go. And that it's amazing.
That was one of the things that releasing the book allowed me to do, is to actually have some credit given to me for what I had done. And I say that, and I find that hard to say in some ways because it feels like I'm bragging, but it was just people giving you that pat on the back, and it's like, I've never heard that, and I've never felt that about myself, and now I can believe it. And it was just today, I was talking to somebody else who'd left a cult, and I was explaining to her, it's almost like an allergic reaction I now have when anybody of any faith says anything like, oh, I'm praying for you, or I hope you'll get back to finding your creator. And I'm like, just stop right now, because you are just throwing up all these traumatic pain points. I've still got so much pain from going through all of that trauma. I don't need any of that judgment or anybody else's views put on me. I just want the freedom to establish what's right for me in my own life and come to that myself without being told, oh, you should do this, or oh, you should do that. Lay it out and let me have a look at it, but leave it there. Don't put it on me, because I've had enough of being put on, and being told what should and shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I so get that.
I just, like, when I came out, I was like, I'm definitely not ready to trust another congregation with all the hypocrisies, and I don't know what to believe as right or wrong. If I want to worship a higher power, I know I can do that myself directly. I don't need to be in any particular place for that. And it's just opening up the mind to looking at woo, and whether I want to be woo woo or woo adjacent or singular woo, or anything else I might want to look at, law of attraction, etc. And I'm like, I just want to be able to tiptoe around and have a look at all this stuff and find out for myself. And I don't find myself hating anything as long as it's respectful. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
I love Leonie Dawson's refuses to be categorized. And I just feel like that. It's just let me be in my own category of what's right for me.
Yeah. So before we wrap this up, is there anything else you would like to share? Do you have anything upcoming? You want to talk any further about anything we did not discuss?
I don't think so. I think we covered it before. Your glorious cover for my book. Thank you very much for that. As your audience will know, or would maybe like to know, that they can download the first chapter for free on my website, which is jessieshedden.com/book. Other than that, there will definitely be book 2 coming out at some point. I think I'm very nearly ready for it now. I went to write it last month, but book 1 hadn't finished coming out, and I needed to just hone book 1 basically before I was ready to move on.
Yeah.
But it will be coming out.
Good job. Congrats on the book.
Thank you.
Yes. So I will post your website and everything, and the links and everything in the description. I'll share this video with you. And any of you, if you want to get a hold of Jessie, you can do that through our website. So it was so good talking with you. Getting to meet you officially.
And hats off to you, because I don't think, are you strictly into podcasts, or is this just being off the back of Leonie's
This
offer?
Is with releasing my book. My book comes out tomorrow technically, and I've just wanted to do some things around this topic and trusting your gut, learning how to be brave. Yeah, so we'll see. I used to have a podcast years ago called Creating an Inspired Life. And my son was 2 at the time, and it was just a lot. I had an art studio and all of these things going on. And I just withdrew from the world a little bit. And literally we moved to the woods. I switched all my work to online, and I just calmed my life down a lot. And so I've been really loving that. And now finally feeling like I can start to reach out a little bit. All right. It was so nice meeting you, and I wish you all the best.
Likewise, well done with releasing your book, and I hope those sales just go.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, bye.
See ya.
All right, so I want to take one more minute. This is my Sacred Hellos book. It comes out, actually, it's probably already out by the time you're seeing this, and I just want to share it with you. It has full color artwork and stories of my journey through grief, a decade, and how I found hope again and joy and used the signs I got from my mom and others and just led me forward to a place of healing. So you can find out more information about that at sacredhellos.com. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.